I mean, this is so classic.
Yeah,
Moment like when we go back, I can just like cringe if it's so classic TMS mind body, but at the time I didn't know. So both
right.
ankle, no injury, no accident, pain moved, burning, um, burning, stabbing, the pain moved on the inside, the outside, it comes and goes, then it's constant. So it was debilitating. And I did the whole rabbit hole of all the,
Mm,
I live in LA, so there's lots of great doctors. So all the doctors, the chiropractor, the PT, the nerve conduction tests, the ladies telling me you have anxiety disorders. Like, well, yeah, this is, no one's giving
mm,
me any information. I had a surgery for a nerve entrapment on my left ankle. I felt tons of shame,
yeah.
being gaslit, right? And all the things. So that was for 4 years with just having one symptom.
Welcome, everyone. I'd like to invite Jeannie to the show. Welcome, Jeannie.
Hi, great. Thanks so much for having me today. Glad to be here.
Excited to have you. Let's get right to it. I'm sure people are waiting to know what happened with you. Give us the story. What happened with your perfect storm? Tell us about your symptoms and the nightmare that you went through.
Yeah, so everything really came to a head at age 26. But even when I was early 20s, right, I was going to the gym a few times a week, right?
Mhm.
Doing, oh my gosh, I'm going to date myself, but in the old days, those step aerobics where you go up and
Yep.
down on that thing. So I did that a few times a week. And it was kind of curious. In my early 20s, I was having severe stress fractures. I'm having
Mm,
shin splints, where the doctors, the physical therapists, this is really severe. You're not an athlete. And like I said, you play a little tennis here and there. So that was a bit odd, right? That was always something, always sort of having to be delicate around that. I remember doing a lot of walking because I was
hmm
afraid to do more physical activities. But again, light workout. So that was early 20s, but that wasn't so debilitating. But everything came together like the perfect storm, like I said, at age 26. That's when I
mm,
got my first bout of what was going to be a chronic, long journey with ankle pain.
mm.
So no injury. I mean, this is so classic.
Yeah,
Moment like when we go back, I can just like cringe if it's so classic TMS mind body, but at the time I didn't know. So both
right.
ankle, no injury, no accident, pain moved, burning, burning, stabbing, the pain moved on the inside, the outside, it comes and goes, then it's constant,
Yeah.
all of that out of nowhere. And that was kind of like my first introduction
Could you
to
see it? Could you
hell.
see
Yeah.
a difference also in the shape or
Mhm.
anything like that? Or just
Yeah,
felt it?
couldn't see it, but I felt it. It was like
Yeah.
no other, right? And people know whatever it is, every time you take a step,
hmm
literally it's the feet, right? The ankles. It's like you can't even move forward. So it was debilitating. And I did the whole rabbit hole of all the,
mm,
I live in LA, so there's lots of great doctors. So all the doctors, the chiropractor, the PT, the nerve conduction tests, the ladies telling me you
mm,
have anxiety disorders. Like, well, yeah, this is, no one's giving
mm.
me any information. I had a surgery for a nerve entrapment on my left ankle. It
Yeah.
did nothing, right? Oh, you have entrapments. What the heck is that? That means nothing.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I have a list sometimes to look at that because I kind of forget like all the
Yeah.
things like seeing the foot and ankle doctors and the podiatrists, the acupuncture, all the things, and basically they have no idea. And there was a lot of, I've heard with your other guests, right, this shame. I felt tons of shame,
Yeah.
being gaslit, right, and all the things. So that was for 4 years with just having one symptom.
Right. Did you
Um,
go down at that time? Did you go down any Facebook rabbit holes and groups or anything like that?
Yeah, fortunately, I don't know. I didn't do the Facebook groups,
Mm.
fortunately.
Good.
I did a little Googling,
Yeah.
but yeah, and that's where I remember kind of pain meds and even opioids. I was like, oh, so tempted. I never did that, fortunately, but it was that bad. I mean, it was all consuming, all I could think about, worry about, which of course we know now is like fueling it. But at the time, it's
Yeah.
all that mattered. That's all I would think about. It was constant all the
So
time.
that affected your probably, life with either work or with like school or relationships, going out to, to events with friends and all
Oh
that
my
kind of
gosh.
stuff.
Yeah, fear with everything, fear to travel. I mean, when I traveled home, and I had like half the suitcase was supplements and,
Mm,
like a brace or something for my
mm.
ankle, like the sleeve you put, I forget what it's like, an ankle brace or like
Yeah.
a patch that I could put on it, right? That has some soothing methanol or something, those kind of things. Yeah. And then at age 30 is when I started having really bad back pain. So 4 years in, now
Mm,
back pain becomes a thing. Same thing. No, well, I was swimming, and so I thought that the swimming
right.
flared back pain. So I
Did you
was doing
have the
swimming.
ankle and then the back pain, or was the one
Yeah,
replacing the other?
yeah.
Okay.
But the ankle pain would be kind of off and on. So I'd have flares in and out. So sometimes I'd only have back pain, but there was always that fear of the ankle pain coming back. And yeah, often they would be together. So I thought it was swimming. And guess why I'm swimming? Because I don't want to do high impact on my ankles, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So it's like the thing I'm doing, I think that's good and healthy. And everyone says, oh, swimming is the most supportive. No one gets injured. How many times have
Right.
I heard, oh, that's weird. Oh, nobody gets injured. What,
Right.
right? Always
Well,
the,
old people do it. Old people, it must be okay for me then.
yeah, you can't injure yourself swimming. And I said, well, my back fucking hurts. So it was
Yeah.
lower back. Then that morphed into upper back. I
Hmm.
had the spasms, no rhyme, no reason. And then I went back. Now I'm the MRIs. Now I'm doing the CT scans, back in PT, the chiropractor, the acupuncturist, no
Did they
answers.
find any normal abnormalities in your back or anything? They couldn't.
Nothing. Not even
Right.
like some of the normal stuff that
Thank
sometimes.
God. Thank God that they didn't find anything, because then
Yeah.
you would have went down another rabbit hole.
Yeah, so I was dealing
Uh-huh.
with both of these, and then what came from the chronic back pain. Now I'm starting to have insomnia, which I know you've had too,
Mm,
because the
yeah.
pain,
Yeah.
because before I was worrying a lot with the, I don't know how I slept before. There was so much worry and fear, but somehow maybe it's just my escape to sleep. But the chronic
Yeah.
back pain, it was such bad pain that I couldn't sleep. And then that's again also bringing up now more anxiety. So this perfect storm was, yeah, the back pain, the ankle pain, the insomnia, severe anxiety. I'm getting depressed, obviously. It's a whole
How long
shitstorm.
did the insomnia how long did you have that for, and how many hours would you sleep
Yeah.
if a day?
It's actually one of the things I still deal with time and, a little bit here and
Yep.
there. And also like being going through perimenopause, sometimes it's
Oh yeah.
confusing. Wait,
Yep.
is this mind body or is this hormones?
Right.
So it still affects me, right? If I'm really like thinking about something, if I'm even if I'm too stimulated at night, I'm really excited. Oh my gosh, something exciting's happening tomorrow. I can get so yeah, so insomnia again, kind of ups and downs. When the back
Yeah.
pain was better, I would sleep better. And I was teaching at this time. So my past life, I was a high school teacher. So getting up super early at like
Yep.
6:15. So that was the pressure too, Helmet, right? Of like, oh my gosh, I have to be up at 6 and it's already 1, it's already 2, it's already
I gotta hurry
3.
up and sleep. Yeah. Pressure, pressure.
Oh gosh. Yeah, and just this whole cycle. And again, I'm seeing, all these like back specialists and LA, there's so many different people that I
Mm,
can be seeing. And now I'm getting has this happened to you where you get the MRI, it's clean, but then two
yeah.
years later you see a different doctor. Oh, but that MRI is 2 years old. We got to do another one.
And I hated the in between of waiting for the results. So, when I went down the rabbit holes of getting all these tests done, it was like a 3 month wait because he was booked
Yeah,
up, right?
yeah.
So then I had that time to think, I have MS, I have blah blah blah, and then you ruminate, right? If you don't know it's mind body, and you get there, they tell you that, oh, we didn't find anything, and then you're like, oh, it's almost like
Yeah.
I got to, purge this programming of me thinking that I had something, because I was all ready to go. I was all set. I'm gonna have these meds, and I'm gonna do this, and have this wheelchair. I'm gonna fucking blah blah blah, right? And then you said, "Oh, sorry, nothing wrong with it. It's a good thing, but it's still, I know. I hear that sometimes where I can't find anything. That can be
Yeah.
a pain in the ass sometimes.
Oh my gosh, so such dismissiveness in the community. And then I'm
Yep,
doing a little bit more since I'm in LA, there's some woo stuff here, right? So I'm doing
yep,
some energy healing, hypnotherapy, Reiki,
right.
anything. I had a
Were you
Chinese,
grounding? Were you hugging trees?
no, not that, but like this Chinese medicine man who's like not even touching me to like move
Right.
the energy in my back and
Yeah, yeah.
seem to help a tiny bit. I don't even know.
He's
Stuff
like, yeah, I
that
think I feel better. Yeah, I think it's where. Yeah, I think.
it's working.
And it might help for
Um,
like 20 seconds, and then you're like, oh fuck, no, no, that didn't do shit.
yeah. And I had back injections. I mean, I think you name it, I've tried it, except for the Facebook groups and except for the hardcore pain
Did you do
pills.
any cranial drainage type therapy? Everybody's
No, I
doing that
did
now.
this weird, I don't even know what it's called, where they like manipulate your neck. Was that like, is that a cranial thing where they like really
Maybe.
sharply
I
and like
don't
you
know
get
much
like a
about it.
release of dopamine? It was crazy. I was doing that. And this is all when I'm working full time. So we get out, and
Yeah.
teachers, we get out earlier, right? So I'm done at 3:30.
Hmm.
Most days I'm rushing after, it's all this rush, 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 rush. So as soon as school's over, I'm rushing to doctor's appointments.
Hmm.
I'm
Yep.
rushing, doing things. I come home exhausted. It was this definite
Yeah.
like, cycle. It wasn't easy. And it would be changes, right? So if I did have a few days, my back is better, I'd be trying to figure it out and analyze like what did I do? What did I, and like, nothing really made sense. You know,
Right.
when you
Just like your ankle. When you had the what did you think at the time when you didn't know the mind body stuff?
yeah.
When your ankle was having a good week, what did you think it was that why it was having a good week and why was it having a bad week? Was it you think, well, maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the barometric pressure because I'm living in LA, maybe that's why because people find little things, right? And they
Yeah.
associate with that. You
Yeah,
didn't
I just
really
thought I was like a freak of nature. Like I just thought
okay.
there's something.
Yeah.
This is what I really thought. I would say this all the time. Like there's something wrong with me. Like I didn't have compassion. There's something wrong with me because the ankle pain came with no, when I go back, I can share with you what was going on mind body, but from a Western
Right.
medical, Jeannie, you're just crazy. Like, I just thought it was crazy. I don't even say crazy. I just always, there's something wrong with me because obviously nothing
What
happened. So
about
now,
family? Did they tell you, oh, it's on your head? Did you have resistance with other people around you?
yeah, I mean, that was so loaded too, right? Because they're well-meaning. I mean, I had someone, tell me just be positive and like
Yeah.
manifest, and that's so triggering and
Yeah.
invalidating. So people were trying, like, oh, be positive, and being positive on something that doesn't make sense, and there's no knowledge, and there's like, I can
Yeah.
help people be a little bit more positive, of course, with the mind body because it's
Right.
neuroscience. This is
Yeah.
fact. Like you can
Right.
rewire your brain. But when it's just be positive of what? Like there's nothing for me. There's nothing's working. And if it's
Yeah.
not working, it must be my fault because this doctor said his thing was going to work, and this person said that her magic tea was going to work, and this energy healer, everyone gets better with her, and it didn't work with me. So then
Right.
things wrong with me. I'm the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. You're broken. You're the special case out of the million.
Totally broken. Yeah. But there wasn't any even diagnosis like anyway until later. So,
Yeah.
kind of in my 30s, just dealing with different symptoms after symptoms. I was getting really bad stomach issues, digestion
Mhm.
issues. Nothing was found, did the endoscopy, and,
Yeah.
that went on for a period of time.
So did you have like gastritis, IBS,
No,
stuff
there's
like that?
nothing.
What were
I'm
your
like,
symptoms? What were your
oh,
symptoms that you're feeling?
sorry. Yeah, it was just like super painful.
Yeah.
And yeah, but there was no like label and diagnosis again,
Mm.
which is good. But I'm like, I guess you call
Yeah.
me like there's never anything girl, right? There was never
Yeah.
anything that came up. So then I thought, of course, well, I must be crazy, like making this stuff up. But it was just super,
Mhm.
super painful. And
Yep.
then I was wondering about, well, maybe it's certain things that I'm eating. And I'm sure it was stress, but at the time, like again, it didn't make sense. So, yeah, in my 30s, just like a big cocktail of different symptoms. I was having, like, again, the insomnia,
Yeah.
all the pain. I was getting really bad hemorrhoids, like in my late 30s, like horrible, which is like, I used to not even talk about it publicly because I was so
Right. Right.
embarrassed.
Right.
But like, I was a high school teacher and it was so painful. It's like, can I stand? Can I sit? Oh my gosh. It's a very sensitive area. And so I'm seeing
Itchy.
all those doctors, just pain,
Yeah.
pain, 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 pain,
So
pain.
did that also with all those symptoms, would that also make you catastrophize and then think about it constantly, which became your trauma in a way. Your symptoms become what fuels the fire.
Absolutely. I know Dan Ratner said the same thing. My
Yeah,
symptoms
that's what he had.
was
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It was my
Well,
trauma.
I had that too. Everybody seems to have that, right? It
Oh my
fuels
gosh.
your. It
PT,
could
and
be
then,
one little thing. Like some people didn't have a trauma thing that sparked any. They didn't have a past life that was like so bad. It was just, maybe one week there was a little stress, and their back hurt or something. One symptom came, and then they obsessed about it because it was scary, and that built up their baseline to 1,000, and then more symptoms came, and then you're in a spiral. It's the snowball effect. That
Yeah,
happens.
no, absolutely. And the same thing, like now these doctors are, well, I should go, drink more or drink more water and have more
Yeah.
fiber, right? And
Oh, right. The fiber, good old fiber. Yeah.
the fiber. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And
The
I've always,
supplements. And so you got to keep right. Take this supplement and then, and that for me, I was reacting to the supplements. I couldn't even take those.
yeah. Yeah, so then I'm kind of scared of what I'm eating and again, like what I'm not eating. And exercise would have been good for me and movement, right? But this hurts
Yeah.
and that hurts and
Yeah.
everything's and again, it would just be up and down. I mean, there would be times where maybe I had a few weeks where there was nothing, but guess what? Even
Yeah.
if there was nothing, I'd be in
Yeah.
fear the whole time.
Bracing. We're getting ready. Yeah.
Bracing, the other shoe's going to drop, and then I would have everything, or then I would
Yeah.
have just the ankle pain. And so it was that. And then I was having chronic sinus infections towards the end of my journey, which was interesting because sometimes they were infections and then sometimes there was nothing there. But at the end in like my late 30s is when I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And that was actually super, what would the word be? Super validating for me. I actually
Yeah.
felt good to get the diagnosis because
Yeah.
finally, and I got diagnosed by about four different doctors and the top
Wow.
five doctors in LA. Yeah, it's like why would I do once, right? I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good.
yeah, so now I have fibromyalgia and it's doom and gloom. And I remember telling one of the doctors that I wasn't sleeping well, and well, you have fibromyalgia, so get used to it. Like that's
Mm,
a symptom, the insomnia.
wow.
But I finally felt a little bit, like I said, more validated with friends and family because I remember I had to say no to a family event. Again, oh
Hmm.
gosh, like I'm weak and something's wrong with me. And then I remember it felt like I got more, a little bit more empathy because, oh, Jeannie has fibromyalgia. It was interesting. It was
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting switch because I felt that this was real.
But then that's a good thing because you're like, finally, I can hold on to something, then people can understand me and it's less pressure. But there's also like, that's a label now. Am I going to be the fibromyalgia hero in all my, in your Instagram? Is that your the name in your
My
Instagram, the name?
identity.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and this whole journey too, I had never met anyone dealing with I don't know why I never did Facebook groups. I think it's a good thing, but I didn't know anyone,
Right.
Helmet, who had chronic illness, who had any chronic pain. I didn't know anybody.
Right. Yeah. So
And I don't
that
know why.
makes,
Just like on TV or something, like I didn't go on the internet like looking for it. I remember I was doing a training and I met a woman who said she had fibromyalgia and I hugged her and I cried. I had never met anyone who had any
yeah.
chronic illness, any chronic pain. But then now I'm going down the rabbit hole and seeing rheumatologists and gabapentin and all these things and nothing's working,
Yep.
right? So that that wasn't so helpful. And then kind of the very, very end in my early 40s where this is like the last kind of bout was the chronic yeah, the chronic sinus infections was like the last symptom. But
Oh.
before that, I had extreme adrenal burnout, chronic fatigue, whatever you want to call it. So that took me down. I mean, I was not working, so I was on medical leave, disability for like 5 months. And I had been on disability before,
Hmm.
taking time off. So that was an interesting one because here's the thing, I was told to rest,
Right.
right? And like slow down, which again, not so helpful with chronic fatigue. I actually got so fast recovered from chronic fatigue when I went back to work full time and I stopped feeling like a victim and I just
Right.
given to, but again, I didn't know. So that was a big one because I was like at the very end of my journey. It was kind of like the biggest everything towards the end because I'm dealing with all these other symptoms. I think the back wasn't as bad at that point,
Hmm.
but the ankles is always an issue. And being like I live alone, so it's like living at my house all day by myself, maybe a couple things
Right.
here and there, but so I felt super lonely. I was depressed. I had
You had all
anxiety.
this time to think,
Yeah,
ruminate.
I had totally too much time. And poor me, I mean,
Uh-huh.
I couldn't work. I was thinking about being a coach at that time. And I
Yeah.
remember I was going through some training, but I couldn't post on Facebook or Instagram or even do anything that actually brought me meaning because I was getting paid on disability, right? So
Right.
I can't be like, hey, I'm a coach, let me help you, or even post, she's posting on Instagram, but she's sick. So
Yeah.
that would have been nice to have something to kind of fuel me, but I didn't have that. Yeah, so I think that's like the most of the symptoms. I'm sure
So
there's
how,
more. There's always more.
so you went through, that's a long time of going, well, I think most of us we have like our ups and downs through many years, and then we have like that big storm that forces us to look deeper. What how did you find the way? What was the way
Yeah,
out?
yeah. I was gonna say too something else that I did. Have you heard of Medical Medium?
Yeah.
I talked to him.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
And
So
tell me,
anyway,
how did that
anyway,
go?
I had an appointment with him, and then I went down a whole. You talk about supplements,
Yeah.
whole yeah. Because I did a session
Celery
with.
juice?
Oh my God, I did a session with him. It was before his first book came out, so he hadn't exploded yet. So I did a
Oh,
session with him. Tons of supplements. Oh my gosh, elimination diet. Don't eat anything. And then because now he's big and stuff, I worked with one of his, I guess, people that he had trained underneath him. So that was a few years of being so much fear of my body, of someone else telling me what I can eat, what supplement. If I don't feel good, I'm going to her because she's an intuitive. So anyway, that was a big kind of struggle too. And I wasted I mean, the whole journey on, wasting time and money, this and
medical
that.
medium. What a scam. Like I fell for it.
Yeah.
I bought four of his books. And then once I went through the mind body thing, I made sure to get those books and I didn't donate them. I threw them in the garbage because I didn't want somebody else being fucking brainwashed by the bullshit.
Yeah, I did a video on my Instagram where I'm holding them to show them, but yeah, these are out of here, out of here, out of here. So anyway, yeah, and then I feel like
Yeah.
it takes a while to kind of unravel
Yeah.
that belief, right? It's you believe something and then you're having to unlearn it.
Yeah.
I had some fear with a lot of food for even like learning this. It was like dairy. I mean, I just
Mhm.
indoctrinated, is that a word? With
Doctor,
what,
yeah.
yeah, with what to eat. So
I did the
I,
same thing also with the plant paradox. You ever read that book with
Mhm.
Dr. Gundry? He's like this,
I've heard of him. Yeah.
he's a famous heart surgeon. Because he's a heart surgeon, he knows about everything mind, body, and yeah, I went
Yeah.
down the rabbit holes. Well, with every diet, I tried all the diets too, and nothing worked. Usually things got worse, except for the carnivore diet. That did help, but it was a coping mechanism, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, this sounds familiar. And you have to unravel the programming that you've did. You have to purge it, which is a long process. And when you don't know what to latch on to, it's like, well, where do I go? Like, what do I do?
Because there was nothing that anyone was doing. And then the food too just brings up so much food fear. And the one thing that can
Yeah.
bring a little pleasure, right? It's not pleasure because you're eating,
Yeah.
they make fun of people like eating chicken, rice, and broccoli is like someone who works out at the gym or something. They're eating a boring diet. I couldn't even eat chicken. Medical medium has said no chicken. So anyway,
Of
that
course.
was really that. But so my little entree into all of this was with Steve Ozanich. I heard him on a podcast. It was
Yeah.
funny. It was like this great synchronicity. I was working with a mind body coach, but she didn't know about chronic pain. So I was learning with her about emotions and being more grounded. I'm very empathic. I'm very
Yeah.
sensitive. So I'm picking up in the classroom as a teacher, like all the kids' stress and all, my
Right, right,
dysregulated
right. You're
system.
absorbing it like a sponge. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm like super dysregulated, right? And then I'm around 250 very dysregulated teenagers. So
Plus, if it's cold season, you're gonna get all of that stuff.
yeah. Yeah. So I had been working with the mind body coach and starting to, because I was always in my head, I was always dissociated. Like I didn't understand what do you mean? Like literally, what do you mean be in your body? That sounds horrible. Why are you? And I remember challenging her. Are you sure? Just because you're my coach doesn't mean you're right. That's what I
Right.
was thinking to her.
Yeah.
Kind of wanted that evidence. Like she's
Yeah.
telling me to be in your body, but is that just some woo-woo thing that another
Yeah.
person would say not to be? So it was this perfect storm in a good way where she recommended Jim Prusak. There was like a Rebecca Tolan. I don't know if you know Rebecca Tolan, but they
Yeah.
did an
Yeah.
interview together. And my coach had worked with Rebecca. So she sent me this. So with Jim and just, hey, this is mind body, but more chronic pain. And
Mhm.
exactly at that time that that video came to me, I heard Steve Ozanich on a podcast, a business podcast.
Yeah.
He was on a business podcast because the host, my mentor, had gotten better from back pain. So it wasn't exactly, he wasn't there for business, but because personally, the host had recovered from horrible back pain. So Steve
Yeah.
Ozanich is on the podcast. My mouth is on the floor, right? The whole, like, he's talking
Yeah.
about me, bought his book, The Great Pain Deception. That
Yeah.
book crying, Helmet,
Yeah, I have
crying
it.
when I read that book. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the same book.
Yeah, and that was, yeah, I know most people, maybe Sarno is their first book, but that was my
Yeah.
first.
Well,
So,
the title, it says it lists all the symptoms on it, and it's like the deception, and you see like colitis. I'm like, oh my God, right? And you're like,
I know on the title, it's like all of my symptoms are
smart,
right
good
there.
marketing.
Yeah.
Just
So
list what
right
the
at the
problem
same
is.
time, yeah. So I'm seeing, because sometimes I don't know, I read a book and it's not as current, whatever. When you see people right now that are in, you're like, wait, this is actually happening like in real life. And
Yeah,
so, yeah. And then so I worked with Jim. He was my coach and we worked
he's
on the
awesome.
sinus. So I worked on the sinus infections with him. But guess what? So much of my stuff, I just had this deep knowing. Like I'm reading the
Mm,
book and I'm like, oh, got it. I'm not going to have ankle pain anymore. Like, got it. Like this deep.
yeah, yep.
And I've had little twinges.
Confidence. Yeah,
Yeah, just that whole book spoke to me. I had been doing a lot of work on myself in the coaching industry, like, working
yep,
with life coaches and being more open to all of this, right? Trying to separate from the ego, because my ego can like, no, that's not you. Your stuff is, I don't know, my ego. I had just done so much work on
right.
my
The stuff,
thoughts, how
the
I
stuff in the
feel.
past comes to haunt you. All the researching that you did in the past comes to kind of give you the little doubt. And I had
Yeah.
that going through this journey for a little bit, but I just kept going anyway. And
Yeah.
it figured itself out. It dissolved eventually.
Yeah, it was like, here's the knowledge. And then that was the book. So here's all the knowledge. Here's the foundation. It super resonated. It's talking
Yeah.
about me and even if he's not talking about my symptom, it's all the same. And then I
Mhm.
had the action piece, right? Because reached out to Jim and started working
Mhm.
on that. So I had a plan and I actually had a plan with something that actually I knew was going to help me.
Right.
Yeah, and before I started working with him, I don't know, not because of TMS, I just was like, I'm going back to work. Like, I can't do this. And
Yeah.
I got, again, with it was Epstein-Barr, it was adrenal fatigue, it was chronic fatigue. I got better going back to work. And it's hard. Like, if I'm working with someone with chronic fatigue, I mean, my heart I
Hmm.
get it. Like it's not just so easy just to say, just go back to work. But let me tell you, working with high school kids, you will not feel like a
Oh,
victim with the high school kids around. They don't
yeah.
let and like I did what I had to do. It was my break time. There was a little couch in the teachers' conference
Yeah.
area. I lay down. The minute the bell rang, I'm out of there.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, it gave me something to think about, like you said, and not focus on poor me, because that poor me.
Yeah. So,
Unfortunately,
so
that
you
was
had almost like three people come into your like Rebecca Tolan, PT, um, what's his name again? Uh,
Jim. Yeah.
yeah, Jim, and Steve. So that's great. So you really dove deep into the mind body stuff. Plus, you're going through it yourself, which is like you do the theory, but then you actually walk the walk, and you really do like it's like the apprenticeship. You're really in the trenches of the work. And
Hmm.
how was that like with the routine? What was your day like? Did
Yeah.
you have anything that you followed? Was there a routine that you had, or anything that did you do any sort of
Yeah.
like unplugging on certain stress things? Did you do meditation? Did you do any
Yeah.
special things at all?
Question. So this is funny. Back in my day, Helmet, we didn't have PRT and Alan
Right.
Gordon's, right? So I didn't do
Hmm.
PRT. I might have done with Jim like one or two somatic tracking. I definitely
Okay.
did not do journal speak. Like, no
Okay. Yeah.
way. Never did that. I was getting into breath work a lot at that time, and I'm a breath
Hmm.
work teacher. I facilitate that.
Hmm.
So at the time, breath work was so beautiful. So many things. First of all, get out of my head because I can't stop
Hmm.
these. You talked about it. Like you can't
Yeah.
stop the thoughts. You can't, these looping, this anxiety. What you can
Right.
do is get into your body and try to separate it from a bit. So breath work was a beautiful tool to get into my
Hmm.
body because I'm paying attention way too much to these thoughts. And
Hmm.
also the technique that I teach, it's very cathartic. It's to give you an experience and to feel and release stuck negative emotions. So
Yeah.
think about our TMS, right? It's a lot of stuck negative emotions. It's not
Yeah.
feeling, it's not being in our
Right.
bodies, it's not about being safe. I
So you're
always feel,
more aware. You're more trying to be more aware of your old patterns, old behavior patterns, and trying to change them slowly.
yeah, and like the biggest huge awakening for me with this is like I could be my own healer, right? Because I
Right.
was putting all of my faith and hope into other people to heal me.
Right.
All
And
these
trying to
healers,
do it
all
right.
these
a lot of
Yeah.
pressure in doing it right and not understanding maybe. But then when you become your own guinea pig, you know, you do all the wrong things, but it's good that you do all the wrong things because when you do the right things for yourself, you get the contrast of this. Now it makes sense. Now it's fitting together because I did all the bullshit before.
Yeah, and it was so interesting, right? So even the chiropractor, so obviously I have to make an appointment and he has to be there. It's not just, hey, it's Thursday at 4, I need an adjustment or something. So it's always being reliant, like we said, on other people. So
Yeah.
breath work, wow, I could do this for myself anytime. I don't have to
Right.
wait to get an appointment and look to somebody else to heal me. So that brought me a lot of empowerment. And then as I was getting into breath work, like learning how to breathe more efficiently, which
Hmm.
is going to help me get out of the fight or flight. So I would say that was my biggest kind of tool that I did. But yeah, I don't have any, I mean,
Well,
still, right?
going to work, that was your routine, a nice routine. So you
Yeah.
weren't at home ruminating, letting the
Yeah.
brain hijack you. So you had a good, you know, career that you're doing, and then you're being aware of your
Oh, but I
behavior
hated my
patterns.
career. So there's that.
Okay.
So,
Did you end up staying in that or did
oh,
you?
left.
Okay. This is
Yeah.
another thing. It sometimes makes you be aware of what you really want in life and you make these hard
Yeah.
decisions. That could happen with
Yeah.
relationships, you know, cutting people out in your life, even family and work, careers, jumping different like these are the hard choices that you got to make. If you want to make change, then that's what you got to do.
Oh, absolutely. So my last year as a teacher, I was doing my coaching, like accreditation, whatever you call it, certification. So that was bringing me a lot of purpose. So I'd come home and I'd be all excited to jump on the call with the coaching or do my little coursework, whatever it is. So that last year, also having that sense of purpose, not
Yeah.
feeling stuck. I mean, I'm feeling stuck with my health issues. I'm feeling stuck in the career. I had wanted to leave teaching. It was this perfect storm with the teaching because I wanted to leave teaching so desperately, but I was terrified. You know, here in the States, the damn health insurance issue.
Yeah.
Leave a job, you don't have it. So, well, you leave a, you know, if you're working for yourself, now you pay for it. So
Hmm.
I was afraid to leave because of the health insurance and the stability, and I got a pension being a teacher. It's a very safe career.
Yeah.
And people that go into it, I'm sure, no accident, are looking for that safety, security,
Yeah.
right? Teachers sometimes leave in the very beginning, maybe the first 5 years if they don't like it. That's common. But once you're in
Mm.
it, I mean, I was teaching almost 20 years, very, very rare to leave at that point because
Right.
it
Yeah.
for so long. So I just had so many fears come to the surface about leaving. So really having to do a oh my gosh, coaching honestly changed everything because it was
Hmm.
forcing me to look at these fears and right, it's all about me and what I'm afraid of, and I'm not good enough, and how can I be a coach? And I don't have any
Hmm.
business background. I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to market, like all of these
Yeah.
things. Yeah, but what the catalyst was though is that I actually started believing in myself again because I was healing. Right? So it's like so empowering because I
Right.
was feeling empowered with the physical health. So
Yep.
now that ties into my mental capabilities and yeah, so I did leave the job in 2019 and it was really hard. Like it was a hard, like I couldn't have done it alone. I mean, my parents were like, don't leave, you know, especially I'm sick, helmet. Like my dad, you know, he's like looking at his little girl, like, why would you leave? You are, I don't think he looked at me as sick, but yeah, you're at the doctor like all the time and all your
Yeah.
different healing modalities and a lot of it's covered with insurance. A lot of the stuff I was doing wasn't, right? Because it's
Hmm.
more alternative. But
Right.
yeah, my medication, we have prescription for that. So yeah, out of being scared, people didn't, you know, people were really worried about me leaving. So having that deep trust in myself of like, I know this is TMS, so we're
Right.
fine. So I didn't have to stay in something I hated because I needed the money and the security. I mean, that was super empowering. Yeah, and then I started teaching
Yeah.
breath work at the beginning too, and then that
So
led
during
to
this whole journey, were you relying on your intuition and did you become more spiritual at all? Did you have like more of an awakening because of this journey?
I think so, definitely. Well, definitely more. So if I'm always in my head, which I was,
Yeah.
like that's not going to connect you to source, God,
Right.
universe, whatever you believe. So being in your head and your ego, yeah, it's just there's nothing spiritual there in my opinion. So when I
Mhm.
was able breath work
Right.
and yeah, it
That'll
wasn't
do it.
that'll do it. Or like even helmet, like being on high alert all day. Oh my gosh, this symptom and that symptom, and what am I going to do after dinner? And I can't eat this. And like, okay, bedtime. It's like we stay obviously in our heads so that we don't have to be in our bodies. And being in our bodies is where intuition is. Being into our bodies is where, if you believe you have a soul, right? So body is going to connect you if
Hmm.
you believe in like, and I'm not super spiritual or religious like at
Yeah.
all, but yeah, like the stillness, like connecting to myself, feeling like, oh, I think there's actually not anything wrong with me. I think I'm a very classic TMS. I'm
Right.
like the most, I'm like the textbook,
Right.
right? Like, because if I go back, I can tell you with like the ankles what was going on, but it's like the most classic textbook you could even imagine. So it's like, wait, I think I'm kind of normal. uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, so definitely connection with myself. I remember I did breath work a few months ago, and sometimes it really helps me with my emotions if I'm feeling, and I'll actually feel a shift, like, wow, I feel more lighter free. And I remember my emotions, I didn't really get that kind of release because
Right.
every time you do is different. But I just felt so much more connected to myself, right? I just like, oh, I've been working all day or all week, and it's like I gave this time I was just like, oh, like
Yeah.
like baby girl, okay, we're here, we're together. Like it's that mind body connection, right? Because we're just obsessed with being in our mind. And the thing I
Yeah.
try to tell people is like this mind body connection, it's so much intellectualizing and the mind and the brain retraining, which
I
we
know my
need.
my,
We
my
need the
wife
body.
talked about breath work. She did a couple of breath work classes and she said it's fucking crazy. She's like
Mhm.
her hands start going like fucked up
Yeah,
and she starts seeing shit. She's like, "Oh my God, I saw people. I saw my dad. I saw like she went somewhere else. Like it's trippy the
yeah.
experience. I'm too scared to try that because I'm like I don't want to no,
Uh,
but I like hearing about it. So
mhm.
describe what
Well,
it's
I
like
can
when you
I
do it.
can I can guide you on that
Yeah.
because this is tetany, like this kind of thing where our hands go like this. So yeah, I mean, we know that emotions, trauma, stress
Mhm.
is in the body. So when we do an intentional practice with our breath to move this out. So for you, just if you were interested, and I can send you stuff, like you could just do 2 minutes, right?
Right.
2 minutes, and that's it. Or you can go, the other thing is you can go super, super slow. You do not have to go fast at all. Some people do fast breathing once they're more experienced,
Are
but
you like breathing fast or deep?
so this is the rule. When I guide a class, I tell people a tiny bit faster than normal breathing. So just like
Okay.
little, yeah. But
Okay.
like really like big pros and people who've been doing it, yeah, they can go fast or especially like sometimes going fast is going to give you more energy at the end of the session. So maybe it's morning and you're like, we got to start the day. Here we go. So you can do it fast. I like to do it at night and do it slow. It
Mm.
relaxes me, gets me in the parasympathetic nervous system. I can start yawning and then it's great. I get to go to
Yeah.
bed. Yeah. So the
Did you ever
cool thing,
experience with like trippy shit?
I didn't. Yeah. But people, especially if there is trauma or they're like new with it, they can experience a lot of, but it's safe. And that's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. I think
Um,
it's cool. Pretty good, fascinating
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, but I like to say too, because I know there's a lot of kind of, you've said it, like rules in the TMS community of
Yeah.
how you do things, and there isn't. It gets to be
Yeah.
your journey. But here's the cool thing too, is like now that I'm more embodied in my body,
Yeah.
so intuition's in my body.
Hmm.
Wow, that's a freaking like revelation. So now I'm like I said, trusting myself today or trusting myself more, like believing
Hmm.
in myself. This is where I'm going to make my decisions, not from because before when I was so dissociated, it was everything was in my head, right? Everything was coming from when
Yeah.
I'm in fight or flight, when we're in fight or flight, we don't make good decisions. Like we just don't. We
No.
don't have like
You
blood.
get sucked into the alarms and the beliefs and they're very convincing.
Yeah.
Very convincing.
So it's kind of like with this journey, what I tell people with it's like, Jeannie, should I journal speak? Do I do breath work? Do I
Hmm.
do that? It's like, okay, let's get you in your body, right? That's where your wisdom is. That's where your intuition is. And then you get to decide. I tell people like, hey, if your tool for the day is like, I'm gonna go sit in the sun for 10 minutes, that's your tool. Because you're like, you know what? I just need some stillness right now.
It
And if
feels good.
it feels good. And maybe someone's like, I need to go see my best friend and grab a cup of tea. Awesome. Connection is really great for the nervous system
Yeah.
and support.
That's like
So,
Abraham Hicks. She talks about that. Get tapped in, turned on, and just enjoy the deliciousness of that moment. That's what
and
I
then,
try to do.
yeah. And so it can kind of help us with routines or what do I have to do or Jeannie healed this way and helmets, it's like
Right.
nobody, like what works for you and like what do you need is a good, I was listening for
Hmm.
the first time. what do I actually need? Which, it was always like my students, especially teachers, it's always seems to
Mm.
be like your students' needs, but our needs. But I also had all like the personality type T.
Yeah.
Um,
Were you a people
so,
pleaser?
oh yeah. Well, as a teacher, so I'm like this perfectionist people
Okay.
pleaser, right?
Oh, they're like peas and carrots. They're like best friends.
So think about this. So let's say, if a kid, I mean, I have boundaries, of course, but I never wanted a parent to go to the principal, right? So we can
Oh,
be
right,
some
right,
people
right.
pleasing, or a kid makes a big stink and it's like, and I would have confliction, right? Because it's like, do I change? Like, part of me is like, I just want this to go away. If I give him
Yeah,
two
yeah.
points, 2 points,
Right.
genius cares. But my ego was like, nope, that's not fair. So
Yeah.
yeah, not wanting things to escalate. But the other thing that was interesting is, um, so I'm not so big, like like a petite woman. And so
Hmm.
in the high school, I just had so much masculine energy. I had to be so
Yeah.
tough all the time and
Well,
super
yeah.
strict, right? I mean, I have football players in my classroom. And so
Mhm.
to compensate, it was like using all this like energy. I have to be so strict. And it served me well. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
wants to be I mean, it's great, I'm nice, but like, no, she's
They'll
nice and
test you. They
they'll
will.
test you and they'll take
They're
advantage.
shits. They're little shitheads. I know. I was one.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant your teacher. Yeah. So I'm like,
No, no.
yeah, yeah. So like having to show up and be like, oh, so it's
Yeah.
like, I just want to be me, right? I just like, this is
Yeah.
such a breath of fresh air to be able to talk to you, to be able to share my story. And when I started when coaching, actually, I didn't do TMS coaching. I was just doing health coaching. I didn't feel like I just gotten better, right? I
Hmm.
never wanted to say fibromyalgia. Like I wasn't even ready for people to know that about
Right,
me.
right, right. Yeah.
So it was just like this beautiful journey. I started to share a little bit about the TMS, the chronic pain, and someone hired me. Just like I wasn't even advertising I'd do that,
Right, right.
but she had back pain. Yeah, and then from there, wow, it really helped her. She like did so great. And yeah, they kind of just it when like it just lit me
Yeah.
up. It's just I could talk about it all the time.
Well, you're doing something you have passion about, you enjoy it. It's like it's not even doesn't feel like it's work compared to something that you're like fucking hated to go to. Like that's
Oh,
gonna affect your body. It's gonna, fill up your bucket, right? And
yeah.
that's gonna you're gonna be pulling 747. Something's gotta give. Plus all the bullshit that happened to you in the past. Like that's normal. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And I was teaching Spanish, which I loved at the time, but I was so tired. I mean, think about it. If you teach history, then things kind of get updated every year, right? Or you're
Oh,
like, let's
right,
talk about what's going on in the government. But
right,
Spanish, it's the same. It really doesn't. So
right.
every year I'm teaching if I had to
Ah,
teach the alphabet. And so we're talking about like basic concepts, and I wasn't for some reason the politics of the school, like I wasn't teaching the Spanish 3, which I thought was more interesting. So I'm teaching the
mhm.
basics, and a lot of kids don't want to be in that class because you have to take a foreign language as a high school student.
Right.
So anyway, it was a lot of, yeah, like I cannot teach the numbers again. I have to teach, right? And kids don't want to
Oh,
be,
it's so boring.
it was so boring. Then there's kids in the class because this is LA who are fluent, right? So they're
They know it
bored.
better than you. They know it
Yeah,
better than
they're
you. They're like,
totally. And they're bored. And I lived in Spain and they're like, who is this white girl? And like her little accent. Because
accent.
yeah, and I'm like, I get it. I'm totally not a native speaker and I can still teach you. So
Yeah, that's funny.
yeah. So, and that's a good thing to learn about this too, is that when I started teaching, I was passionate. And I mean, I still love Spanish, but I don't want to teach an AR verb and I don't want to teach the weather. So it is
Yeah. You
checking
want to
in with,
use Spanish when you're in, Costa Rica ordering a
yes,
cerveza on the fucking beach
yes,
doing fuck all,
yes,
not teaching it.
yeah,
The same shit
yeah.
every year.
Oh my gosh, you totally get it. And Scotty Styles, him and I
Yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
we went to Mexico together. That's when I want to use it is in Puerto
Exactly.
Vallarta. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just this like, yes, this mundane, this like boring, oh my gosh, can you relate to this like kind of living, looking forward to the weekend because it's just,
Yeah.
but then the weekends suck because you're like, I wasn't doing anything fun then either. For me, it
Well,
was like,
Sunday's a write-off because it's before Monday, so you got to prepare for fucking Monday. What's the point of Sunday? And Saturday is the day before.
yeah. And I was doing life here and there, but oh, talk about being single and like dating with this, right? So
Yeah.
I'm trying to be positive and
Oh,
like, oh, But like in the back of my
That's
head, I'm like,
exhausting. You got to put
please
extra
don't
time
ask
for this
me.
person, right? And nowadays, it's hard to find a good relationship. They're like unicorns. You got to put effort in. They want to know if they want to control you, or you want to control them, or you get into all this complicated shit. Narcissistic people are everywhere. So fuck it. Get a dog, stay single, speak Spanish in Mexico, there, and then you can be your authentic self. And that
Yeah,
takes a
well,
lot of loads.
isn't it like funny but not funny synchronicity that yeah, once I got better. I mean, I just think it's so funny because dating's hard enough, most of the people would agree. And then try dating with like a chronic illness, chronic pain, you have no idea what's wrong with you. You're trying to be like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. I've
Yeah.
got it." "Oh, but what is wrong with you?" "Well, I don't know." "Well, what do you mean
Ugh.
you don't know?" Like, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Opening
present
cans of worms.
myself as yeah, I'm trying to present myself as not a freak in nature. Like no one's gonna want to do. So it was this like this interesting journey. And then yeah, later, we follow your passion, like your passion, your purpose. I mean,
Mhm.
purpose, passion, it's the best antidepressant like ever. So when you're
Mm,
serving
thank you.
others, right, that fire, like all of a sudden the fire came back in my belly and now I'm confident because I'm doing what I love and I'm in my
Yeah.
power and yeah. And
And you
then
have
the
the
and
experience
then
to
the
move through.
relationship came like
Oh,
organically.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Well, that's what I noticed. I'm like when you're desperately looking for that relationship, you never find it or it takes forever or you find what you don't want. But when you work on yourself and you vibrate higher and you're happy, you authentically attract that same thing, which is, better.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and he has TMS too, but he doesn't think he does.
They all do, and they don't want to hear it, right? They don't want to
Um,
hear my, like, yeah, yeah, I know, mind body, yeah, my bucket's full, yeah, yeah, I know. I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't want to do your program. I don't want to fucking. I'm like, all right. I'll leave it alone.
yeah. Yeah, so it's just yeah, I mean so I tend to get some people definitely who hear my story. They also hate their soul-sucking job just like I do. And my
Yeah.
poor kids, right? Because I do have a couple students that follow me on Instagram now, right? And it's like,
Nice.
wow, isn't that interesting to think like, wow, they didn't know my story. I'm sure people or people who didn't know. I mean, it's like this that was the thing as being a teacher, right? It's like putting this mask on of being no emotions, right? Never let your students see you cry and
Yeah.
be like this perfect, you can't cuss, like you can't have emotions, you can't yell at a kid. You got to show up and be fucking perfect every day.
Yeah.
That's your job. So guess
Yeah.
what I did with all my emotions? Down.
Right. Less
Yeah.
pressure. You can be
A
your
lot of
authentic
pressure.
self.
Yeah. Pressure to be perfect and yeah, being able to be authentic and do what you love. Oh my gosh, it is so fun.
Yeah. So would you say that um, most of your chronic things are pretty much gone now, and you're just able to, because I know life throws
Yeah.
curveballs. Things will come and up and down,
Yeah.
but you're able to move through it now.
Yeah, I always say I don't even like the word manage. Like I don't ever say like I manage symptoms. I just
Yeah.
say, well, it's never going to be chronic again. So,
Right.
and
Exactly.
actually like last week I had this crazy deep left shoulder scapula. I never have anything like left shoulder.
Hmm.
No, I know it's TMS. I wake up and I was like, wow, like I would really like to get a massage. Like, that couple doubt of like, this can't be, TMS. Oh, this is so, no. I was like, this is T next day, it's gone. It's gone. It's
Yeah.
gone. And then
Exactly. Because
three
of your
weeks before,
experience. Yeah.
yeah. And then 3 weeks before, I have a 3 days of pain, but it's like a level two. And then 3 days later, it's gone. So yes, I have stuff. And I told you like the sleep, that seems a little bit like, again, I don't know if it's like hormones with me because I'm in this age, but definitely a mind body component there. But
But it's
yeah,
it's a
so
good thing. It's almost like you have your little alarm system that kind of tells you, hey, you've been last week you're had an argument with your mom and it was just a crazy fucking week, and it kind of reminds you of, hey, kind of, maybe unplug with that one thing, or maybe, be aware of this thing that's driving you crazy. Make some changes, and then you make the changes and you move through it. That's it.
yeah, so it's such this mind body awareness, it's such a like you said, it's like this gift and it's understanding. So when I got
Yeah.
that weird and never do I get left, it was like the weirdest. I've had a lot of back pain, never there, never that deep, 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 right? And
Yeah.
so first thing it's like, okay, what am I not wanting to feel? And actually when
Right.
I was able to think about something that was bothering me emotionally, I didn't even kind of like work on the emotions. I'm not like sitting there like, let me feel it. I just put that like, oh, it's because of this,
Yeah.
right? And then not having fear about it. So the good news is, yeah, so I'll have, of course, because I'm human, like a symptom,
Yeah.
but I'll tell people like it's never going to be chronic again. It hasn't been chronic
Right.
since I got better. It's been, yeah, a couple days of like level 2 pain. Okay,
Right.
or 1 day of level 5, but then it's gone.
It keeps you sharp too, though, which is good.
Yeah.
Keep that pencil sharp because life's gonna keep throwing us bullshit, right?
Yeah, it's just learning. And I know some people kind of, it's cute. I'm sure you hear people too, like, oh man, like, how long do I have to do the work? And
Hmm.
we didn't get the memo that feeling our emotions, it's part of being human
Yeah.
and
And it
taking
takes
good care
time.
of ourselves and getting our needs met. That's the human experience. Like, it's not like,
Right.
hey, I want you to get your needs met. And then the second you're out of chronic pain, like it doesn't matter anymore, right? And then this is like why, and I've heard other people and other guests say that this TMS journey changes everything. It changes your relationships with
Yeah.
partners, family, kids,
Business. Yeah.
this everything because I was no way I could take rejection. Being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, there's rejection, there's disappointment.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that as a teacher, right? I was like, kids are not
Right.
even picking to be in my class. It's like they get put there. And now I'm having to deal with like rejection and just I make a mistake in coaching. Oh my gosh, like that sounds horrible. But I know how to work with it now.
Right.
And yeah, and it's okay to be sad. It's okay if I'm sad or mad at myself and I'm angry or ugh, but like I don't stay there. I don't indulge
Right.
and like
You
let
move
it
through it. Yeah.
exactly.
When we're
It's
human, we are human, right?
And that's the superpower. And that's the same thing with anything, right? Like there's just dating's like a good example, and I help people with it sometimes. It's like we don't want to get hurt,
Hmm.
right? So we armor up. We're not even showing up as authentic because we're like, this person rejected me or that person in my past. And so we don't show up like who we are.
Right.
Or like in business, right? We had rejection or where there was like a failure, but like you said, being able to move, that's a superpower. Because like
Hmm.
old Jeannie, like before I did this work, would be like, oh my God, I made a mistake. I would just be so hard on myself. And then I would not feel comfortable like putting myself out there or like
Right.
play small, like who am I? And now it's like, all right, baby girl, like,
Yeah.
like
Well, yeah. Now
take
it's
care of
now it's we
yourself.
run
Let's
towards it.
go.
Now it's a target now. Now we get uncomfortable on purpose. It's like, oh, opportunity. Let's do it.
Yeah, so interesting how like the healing journey was such a catalyst for the business journey.
Yeah.
Right. Like yeah, it's you can't
All the
do,
same shit. We use the
yeah,
same methods. Yeah. Totally. Like for
yeah.
let's say somebody who's what advice would you give somebody who's first watching this video dealing with some of the things that you dealt with and they're
Mhm.
finally getting into the mind body space but they're a newbie, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say being in the present moment and really connecting with intuition just to take your
Mhm.
next steps, right? Because it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
How, what, and it's like, okay, just right now, let's start in like the present moment. Like, can you regulate right now? Because you're not going to make
Yep.
a good decision again, like we said, like, what am I
Hmm.
doing? And it's like, okay, just regulate for the next 30 seconds and check in. Like, what do I need? Oh, I need to ground right now, or I need connection, or I
Hmm.
need safety, right? Instead of like we go to our phones on Instagram because I'm like, I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
saying and blah, blah. So I would say the stillness, we need to get still, right? The answers come and like we can't hear our intuition when we're blah, 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 and
That's true.
overstimulated. We're so overstimulated with social media and the news, in the States, there's a lot of politics going on and things
Yeah.
happening.
So many distractions around us. You need to give it that time to allow the downloads and the clarity and that. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, it makes sense now, right? You have a meeting with yourself, get organized, and you're like, okay, now we're moving forward.
Yeah, and in that stillness, you're going to get the answers. So maybe not right
Hmm.
away, but you're going to
Right.
get the answers. You're like, I need to hire a coach, and you have like 10 coaches, and you're like, but I don't know. Blah, blah. It's like slow
Yeah.
down, check in. Like, we think in this
Yeah.
community we have to do everything perfectly, and just I would say there
Hmm.
is no perfect. We make mistakes,
Yeah.
and but it's a practice. It's a practice of checking in and
Hmm.
learning from our mistakes. And but that's the thing that I didn't have. I didn't trust myself at all because
Right.
how do you trust a mind body when, I mean, you had tons of symptoms. It's like this doesn't
Yeah.
make I don't trust my body at all. So how could I
Right.
trust any intuition from my body?
Right. This is
Do
where
you feel
you,
like your intuition is better too because
yeah.
you're every yeah.
I listen to it more often. I have confidence and I have a knowing, right? And if there's a situation that pops up that I don't like, I use the same methods. I'm like, oh, I'll just allow it to do its thing. And, I'll feel the feelings and then I'll keep engaging. And that usually that thing works out in my favor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so interesting again,
Yeah.
this mind-body connection where sometimes we put too much emphasis, like I said, on the mind.
Yeah.
And people are there's too much information in a good way and a bad way.
You become like a wizard. You learn how to manipulate energy to work in your favor with all this, with the work that we did that sucked, but we learned some shit and now we're able to use it with all kinds of things.
Yeah, and we can help others too. I have
Yeah, well that's the best one right there. That's my
Yeah, my
favorite thing.
clients that are parents, it's like ground with your kids. Show them that self-care, it's not selfish to do self-care and it's not
Right.
selfish to get your needs met, right? A lot of busy moms, if you're a single mom, again, if we have trauma, we learn that, oh, it's not safe or I'm selfish to get my needs met. So
Yeah.
this whole journey is, yeah, putting yourself first, maybe for the first time in your whole life.
Being
Speaking
authentic,
yeah. And like, how do you tell someone to be authentic, right? That's a,
saying no, saying I don't want to do it because I don't want to do it, not making up an excuse because you want to, guard their feelings. Go, well, I don't want to.
yeah,
Okay,
you're a great example of being in your authenticity like all the
yeah,
time.
feels good. Sometimes I want to be authentic just to piss somebody off, but I know I shouldn't do that either, but I can't
Did
help it.
you did you feel like so for me when I had the teaching job and I wasn't able to be authentic, were you doing something before? I'm just curious where you weren't able to be authentic.
I'm not sure. I think it was I've been authentic somewhat for the past couple of years, but I don't think it was the big thing for me. But you know what? You notice after I'm like, well, I had to be a certain way at work. And there's
Mm, yeah.
a lot of politics at work. There's a hierarchy at work. So you do two jobs, get paid for one. And it's not about how right you are. It's about how the politics work with everything. So the work was a lot of stress and adapting to the politics, with work,
Yeah.
relationships, past relationships, right? Oh, and you can't be your authentic self because you're surviving in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
All kinds of different
Yeah.
things that
So
come up to the
interesting.
surface. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a this journey will change you, but in a good way. And it's okay that you
Yeah.
don't understand why. Like, why is this happening to me? Or I don't understand like
Yeah.
the grace of this. And that's okay. Just trust that there will be something on the other side. You're going to come
Yeah.
out, like
And in
how we,
time, you'll look back and then that's when it makes sense. It doesn't usually make sense here looking forward. It makes sense when you're there looking back. It seems to, for me anyway.
yes, I think, people who are trying to, again, figure it all out and what's the blessing or what's the, like, I get it. I don't ask a client like the first session, like, oh, what's the grace of all this? And how is this like
Yeah.
serving you? But I'm like, we'll probably get there if you want, like
Yeah.
later able, but don't worry
Yeah.
about
Don't
it.
worry about it too much. Just keep going. It'll come when it's ready to come.
Yeah,
Right.
kind of stay in the present moment, right? And just, what do
Follow
I
your
need?
passions. Like Bashar, he likes to say, follow your passions. Don't worry about how it gets there. Just follow what you enjoy and it'll come to you. And then you'll know. Because,
Yeah, and
we
like
always
in
want to
the
know what's my purpose? Well, I want to know my purpose.
yeah, and in terms of like a purpose, my mentor, I've used this and share this, it's so beautiful. Like action creates clarity, right? So
Yeah.
like if you didn't know, like, so for me, I started as a health coach, right? And I just took action. And then that kind of, I was just different changes along my journey. And then I changed into, I was doing breath work like a lot more than I am doing it now. But it's like I took action, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like right now I kind of have the clarity of like, I'm not wanting to teach breath work as much. Okay, cool. So then I'm going to teach one later this month, hopefully. And yeah, just taking action. It's like, do
Yeah.
I like working with men? Do I like working with kids? It's like you take action and then you learn from it. You're like, hey, guess what? That's not my niche or that's not who I most
I think
like.
that is probably one of the biggest things, action.
Yeah, I
because
know you're good with that. Yeah.
you're gonna find out. And then, you thought you're gonna be here because you took action. You end up being like here. I thought I was gonna be this cleaning business guru. I thought I was gonna have the biggest business, and then I'm here now. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, fuck, I'd rather be here. I love this. This is way better. Fuck, I was thinking too small, man. This is way better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like our potential is bigger than we even have for ourselves.
Right.
There's that
Exactly.
many. Yeah, there's some beautiful work out there. Yeah, amazing.
Amazing. Well, thanks for coming on their show. I had a great time chatting with you.
Oh,
Um,
thanks so much for having me.
all your information, we'll put it in the description so people can get a hold of you if they
Okay.
want.
Yes,
Awesome.
amazing. Yeah, and if you want to
Thank you.
just say hi on Instagram, I'm friendly, so just say hi.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.